Hi people, hope you're going good out there, keeping sane with this lockdown. I thought I'd just make a little video, it's been a while, and I wanted to look at one of the new features of Logic 10.5. This is a really exciting update. There's a ton of new features. Apple says it's the biggest update they've had since version 10, and I would agree. So what I want to look at today is using the step sequencer, and this is a new feature. This is actually the first time I've actually had a chance to play with it, so I'm pretty excited about this too. So we're going to learn together. So what I've got here is a simple drum kit. This is just one of the drum kits that come with Logic with the new Drum Machine Designer. Okay, and they've actually given the Drum Machine Designer a bit of an overhaul too, but maybe I'll do another video on that later. Let me know if you are interested. So I've got some basic drums here. Okay. And what I want to do is create, instead of just recording the normal way by hitting the record button and playing on my MIDI keyboard and creating, editing it in the piano roll, they've got this new feature called the step sequencer, which is basically a way, just like an old school drum machine, where you can type in steps with your mouse and write a pattern that way. So it's a totally different way of working, and it's, could come up with some really different results. So it's really easy to get into. I've actually got the step sequencer window opened here at the moment, but if I was to close that window, what we've got here is just an empty timeline. And what I want to do, instead of just hitting record, is to right click here on the track and say, instead of creating MIDI region, I want to create a pattern region. All right, and so now we've got this pattern region, and it's a little bit different from what you might normally expect as a MIDI region. Notice it's a different color. And what I might do is make this 8 bars long, and we'll see why later on, because I want to be able to add a bit of variation. And as soon as I did that, that actually opened up the editor window here, where we can see the step sequencer. Now, you got your normal piano roll, but again, this is a new window because it's a new function. So the idea is basically we've got, here's all the drum kits, or the pieces in our drum kit. And the nice thing about if you're using the Drum Machine Designer or any of these kits that come with Logic is that it will auto-populate the step sequencer. So all of your drum sounds are right here. Now you can actually use third-party instruments like battery or some other drum machine with it, and you might just have to set it up so you've got all the right drum sounds. But we're good to go here. So what I've done is I've basically set my tempo to about 140, going to do a bit of a dubstep rhythm type thing. And I'm just going to put in some steps. And the nice thing is that you can do this as it plays back. So if I just hit the play button, now you'll notice that by default here, what we've got is we're looking at 16 steps. Okay, so this is actually just 16 steps. So it's pretty much just 1 bar long. Now you'll notice that here I'm looping in my main arrangement 8 bars. So what it's going to do is, even though I'm just putting in 1 bar here in the step editor, it's going to just repeat that 8 times. But we'll see later on, we'll create more variation. We'll actually probably end up with a 4 or 8 bar loop. So anyway, I'm just going to hit play and put in some steps. Okay, and you can actually see it's running. And I'm going to start off with some hi-hats. So I'm just going to put in some hi-hats just by clicking to add notes. You can remove notes by clicking again on a note to remove it. So I'm just going to put in 8th notes, something like that, and maybe I'll add an extra one there. Okay, and I'll put in a kick on the 1. Okay, and maybe a snare. Now, one thing is that you notice that when I click, it is actually triggering that drum sound. If I don't want that to happen, I can actually turn off this little green MIDI icon here, and that means that when I click with my mouse, I don't hear that triggering the sound. So that just means that it's not going to double trigger when you're adding your notes in. All right, so I'll add a snare in there. And maybe some other snares here. Okay, so there's a very simple pattern. Maybe I'll even put in a open hi-hat in here somewhere. Okay, cool. Now, of course, this is a bit repetitive, so what I might want to do is create some variation, and what I want to do is make this twice as long by coming here and changing it from 16 steps to 32 steps. And the nice thing about this is that it actually just repeats the whole pattern for you. So you don't have to put all those steps in again. It's exactly the same doubled up. And now we can just maybe add some more variations. So maybe I'll put in some more kick drums in here. And maybe some more snares. Okay, very good. Now, let's say I want these hi-hats to be a little bit more interesting. Actually, for a start, let's adjust the velocity because this is feeling very kind of static. So you'll notice that at the moment we're on step on and off up the top here, and that means we're just adding steps or removing steps by clicking with the mouse. But if I come and click here on velocity value, by default this is set to velocity, which means that we can actually just change the velocities of some of these notes. So let's look at the hi-hats. They're all a bit robotic because they're all exactly the same level. So I might come down, turn maybe every second one down a little bit. Okay, something like this, down to about, I don't know, 64 or so. And this middle one here even more maybe. So just adding a bit of variation here, and this really helps to make things sound a bit less robotic. This is one of the kind of, especially if you want to make things feel a little bit more human, playing around with the velocity and the groove and that sort of thing is really important. So here we go, something like that. We've got a bit more velocity in the hi-hats. Maybe I'll just see if I can turn those hi-hats up a little bit. Let's see if I can find them. There they are. Notice that with the Drum Machine Designer, it's actually a track stack. So you can twirl it open and here's all the individual instruments, all right? And what I can do is just turn up this channel for the hi-hats if I want them to be a bit louder. Very good. All right, so coming back to our pattern, maybe I'll do some velocity on some of the kick drums. Maybe these second ones a bit lower. This one a bit lower. All right, and these guys could be definitely a little bit lower. Okay, it's sounding a bit better. Now, one thing I might want to do with the hi-hats is add a few little faster notes, and you'll notice that the grid is set to sort of 16th notes, so I can't really do anything faster than 16th notes by default. So if I want to do things like classic trap hi-hats, that sort of thing, you'd want to have lots of different divisions going in, 32ths and triplets and all different divisions. So luckily that's pretty easy to do here. If I switch this from velocity to a value, notice if I click the arrow here, we can drop down and there's all these different things we can do here. And what I'll do for a start is set this to note repeat. And so what we can see here is that some of these notes here on the hi-hat, we could make go a little bit faster. So at the moment, they're all just doing sort of 16th or 8 notes. So maybe this one here, I want to be a little bit faster. Now you can click and drag up and down and you can see that's dividing it into divisions. I'll just maybe do this one, so cut it in 2, so that'll actually be, I guess, 32 notes. Maybe this one too. Let's not go too crazy. Maybe. Maybe I'll just leave this one on 1. All right, so you get the idea, and let's see if we can make this 3. You know what? Maybe I'll make one of these ones here, the snares. That's cool. All right, so there you go. As you can see, we can start dividing these up and creating some more little fast fills. That's cool. Now, another thing that I really like about this is we've got some probability here. So what I want to do here is set this to chance. Maybe I don't want all of these notes triggering all the time. So for example, maybe some of these snare rolls here, for example, or some of these kick drums. In fact, these kick drums are a little bit busy. So let's say I don't want these kick drums to always hit all the time. Maybe I'll bring this one down so it only triggers about 50% of the time. And same thing with this one. And maybe this one. So it's not happening all the time. And maybe even this one a bit less. So we can start to have a little bit more probability so things aren't always triggering at the same time. Now maybe I'll even put in some more notes here. Let's see if we can just put in some ones here. I'm just going a bit random here, and maybe I will make a really fast little fill here, do a note repeat so it's going really fast, kind of glitchy, and I'll maybe bring that velocity right down. So it's pretty subtle. It's only going to trigger sometimes. There we go. Cool. So as you can see, that's adding a little bit more variety here to our drum pattern. Now, there's plenty of other things under here. I won't go through all of them. Some of these are better for more melodic parts. If you're putting in actual notes or bass lines, you've got note and octave and stuff like this. But as you can see, there's a lot we can do in here. So there's my simple beat. Now, another thing we could do is we could come over here, and if I click this button here, I believe, or the info button, there we go, I for info, and we can see that we've got some other options here too. So for example, maybe I want to add a little bit of swing to this so it's not so rigid. So notice that up here, normally if you wanted to add swing, you could do that up here globally for the whole region. Doesn't seem like that is an option if it's a pattern here, but we can actually add swing here in this section in the editor. So this is on 16th notes, and if I increase the swing amount, we'll start to hear a little bit of swing. Maybe I'll crank that up to about, I don't know, 57. Maybe even 60. Okay, so you can see this is affecting the whole pattern, and everything's slightly swung by, a 60% swing. Now, you can also do things like individual rows, for example, or individual steps. You could change all these assignments. Now, again, I won't go over all of this stuff, but for example, if I wanted to do something like just on the hi-hat row here, so notice that you can choose which row, or you can just select them by clicking. Okay, so let's say on the hi-hats, we could change the rate. So if you wanted to, instead of going 16th notes, you could go 32th notes, which would be twice as fast just for this row. Let's have a listen. Probably sound bad, but oh, it's kind of cool. Gives a different feel, that's for sure. Okay, so there we go. In fact, that could be a good variation. So what I could do is make a copy of this by holding down Option and dragging. And maybe the second one, I want to set these hi-hats to 32th notes. All right, so now the first one's 16th notes. Second one is 32 notes. Okay, so there's plenty more things you could do here. You could, for example, make the rows different lengths. Now, I might do another whole video on this, because you can create some really cool, interesting polyrhythms by changing the actual loop length, the start and the end. But for now, I'll stick with this basic pattern. Okay, so I've just had a bit of a play around, and I've added just a little bit of compression to the drums, just to get them sounding a bit fatter, and I've put a bunch of other tracks here. I've got this sort of jungle sub bass here, and I've got this other bass, and some sort of stabs or chords. And an occasional pad. And then I've got these vocals. So I'll just play that all together and check it out. So there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, having a look at the new step sequencer inside of Logic, and I might do some more tutorials on this and some of the other new features. So bye for now.